This episode of the Stickers and Scuffs podcast has been brought to you by Remax Jack. Jack provides a friendly, customer-driven service in search for homes and provides excellent details on the market, values, and trends in buying and selling. Jack has been able to work with Cam on his search and always makes himself available when he has a question. Remax Jack will help you if you're looking to buy or sell a home within the GTA. He's who Cam K trusts to find his next home, and he should be yours too. Remember, call Remax Jack and start to pack. For more information, go to RemaxJack.ca.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Stickers and Scuffs podcast. We are privileged to welcome in longtime competitor in Ontario racing and the 2021 Ontario Sportsman Series champion, Chad McGlynn, to the show. Chad, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, we're privileged, man. This is cool. There's a couple of competitors that I've wanted to have on the show from when we started, and Chad McGlynn would be one of them.
For sure.
And the brothers McGlynn even, because there's a little bit of history here. Chad McGlynn was in the very first Sportsman Series race I ever watched, along with Doug Cathcart and your brother Sean, and Mike Herniak. So there's been a couple people that I always wanted to chat with. Well, obviously, we know that your brother's a longtime competitor in the series along with you, but I'd like to know kind of how the racing bug kind of got to you guys and your household. Obviously, we know it's a really big family sport for you guys, with Dad working on the cars, and he celebrated over 40 years in motorsports this year. So how did this whole thing come together?
Well, I think it all started with Roger, our dad. It goes way back. So my grandfather, I didn't get to know him. He passed away long before I came around, but he worked for Ford in Michigan. So I think that's where the blue blood came from. My dad started just when he was a kid. I think he was 11, 12 years old, tore the engine out of their Model T or Model A, whichever it was, and put it back together before his dad got back home. Did a bunch of crazy stuff like that. When they were kids, Dad and his brothers would go out and burn sets of tires off and go get some recaps on the car and go back out. So he started drag racing back in the late 50s with his brothers. So they were kind of inseparable, I think, at the time, and spent a lot of time, and they were racing Fords. One of the things Dad had was I think it was a 63 Ford Thunderbolt. So it was a 427 tunnel port. Very rare car now. There's a few stories about, the day he sold it and some of the crazy stuff that happened on the track back then. But that's how he got the bug. And then he decided to switch into oval racing in early 60s. So I believe his first race was Flamborough. And he had a 302 in I think it was a 63 Vulcan, if I'm not mistaken. And he had a Boss 302 in it. So
nice.
It's okay to talk about it now, I guess, all the cheating and stuff that might have went on. I don't know. But everybody else was running the big blocks.
Is out.
Yeah. So, but I think it was all relatively legal then. It was pretty open, but the guys were running the big blocks thinking that was the way to make the power, and he showed up with a Boss 302, and he's screaming 8,000 RPM. And so the story goes, mind you, he tells it himself, so take it with a grain of salt, but my understanding was he didn't get a chance to go out for practice, and they dropped the flag for, I think there was an A main and a B main or something like that back then. Might have been the Diamond class it was called. I'm not a historian on the old classes back then, but from what I gather, he thought he didn't understand how things were going. They dropped the green flag, and he was just driving around the outside of everybody because the car just worked so well, and he won the first race, he won the second race, and that was the beginning of history there.
Nice.
So he continued to race for years. He had a very lucrative racing career. Mostly some of the tracks aren't around anymore. The Hideaway, that was kind of neat. I always heard the name of that track growing up, wondered where it was, and it turns out it's not even too far down the road from us now. But we searched, Sean and I actually spent some time looking to see if we could find it on Google Maps, and we know it's not there anymore, but we thought we found an oval and couldn't quite make it out. We visited the area and searched about trying to find it, and eventually stumbled across a lady that didn't answer the door the first time we went out, and hope she's not listening, but we drove back past her property out in the country into the past the barns, and Sean was driving out in the fields. We were looking to see if we could find some remnant of this track so we didn't get caught creeping around somebody's backyard. By the time we came back, there was somebody home. We knocked on the door, and this lady was super helpful and told us the history of the track a little bit, and how she grew up listening to the track running on Saturday nights or whatever it was. And I think her uncle used to race there. So she gave us a bit of a rundown and told us where it was. It turns out it's a gun club owns the property. So we got a hold of them and tried to go take a look at the track. They said most of it's gone. It's all ripped out. There's only a couple old cars left. And Sean and I are thinking, let's go look at these old cars that are left.
Yeah.
It's been closed since the 70s. But we never got out. They wouldn't let us go check it out. So hopefully someday maybe we'll get a membership there and be able to go check out the old Hideaway. But yeah, there was lots of tracks. Bridgeport. I know Delaware was around. I can't remember the year it opened up, but Dad raced a lot there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he raced for many years, and he brought a couple drivers on board when he decided it was time to wrench rather than drive. It was too much to try and drive the car and work on it at the same time. So he worked with Bob Vale, great guy, great driver. We're still in touch with him to this day. And then Ken McElroy drove for a number of years in the old blue Mustang and the white Mustang. Some neat stories about that and the relationship there. Ken's passed now, but he was an important part of our family for many years. That's the one big thing about racing is everybody becomes family,
Mm-hmm.
Like our entire team, my immediate family, of course, is all involved. My kids, my wife, my dad, obviously, my brother, it's my brothers, I should say. So there's a lot of family involved, but all my crew has basically become like family over the years. They've been around so long, it's hard to tell the difference. So,
When does that transition though happen? When did your dad decide to hang it up?
so I think when Ken stopped driving for my dad, Sean took over. That must have been, I'm going to say the late 80s. I'd have to do some quick math, which I'm not great at. Sean started out, one of his first cars was, he had a Granada, and then he had a Zephyr. He had a number 0 Zephyr. They used to call him the Zero Hero.
Yeah.
He had a few nicknames over the years. Some I can share, some I can't. So Sean started driving, a lot of racing at Flamborough, I think, and a bit of Delaware. Mostly the nightly tracks, right? Rather than traveling series. And then I think Sean was driving in the NASCAR series for a bit, which it was a little bit different way back then. I think it started in 81 or so. So Dad had been competing in it for some time and has been involved a lot with the original NASCAR series. Sean was driving at Delaware, and I was kind of the second crew chief. I took care of a lot of the stuff. Dad took care of the car. I did a lot of the work on it. We get to the track, and I was starting to manage things and stuff. And then eventually I got a chance to take it out one day. Dad said, well, why don't you take the car out for a lap? Oh, this is great. This is great. I couldn't wait, right? I was already driving on the street. I think it was about 18 before I got my first chance on the track. And I thought, this is going to be fantastic. And I forgot that the car was this is a silly story really, but I forgot the car was a 4-speed because the other car was a 3-speed that I, moved around. So I went out on the track, and I'm out with the big boys just on practice. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great. This is great. I feel like I'm going fast. The engine's screaming. I must be flying. And all of a sudden I hear this bang, and it happened so fast. I remember this bang. And I thought, oh no, I've blown the motor up. All of a sudden I realized this is a 4-speed. I'm in third. I've just blown it up. Oh, Dad's going to kill me. This is terrible. I'm in so much trouble. And then all this happened in a split second. Before I realized the bang was the hood slapping up against the windshield, and I couldn't see the track anymore. So put the clutch in, I touched the gas a little bit. I'm like, oh, the motor's not blown up. It's just the hood. Okay. So we pulled it in, put the pins back in, and that isn't the only time we've had a hood come up. Unfortunately, that happened far more times than I care to admit. We have a rule now: the car doesn't go anywhere without the pins, the hood pins. But yeah, we went back out and got a few more laps in the right gear. Still pretty slow, but that's how I started out. I got a chance to drive Sean's car, and then after a while, we had 2 cars, and we were running the Sportsman Series and the Super Series at the same time, and kind of crewing for each other. And we did a lot of racing. I remember working night shift, and I'd get off Friday morning, work on the car all day to get it to Delaware for Friday night. I'd drive it. We'd pack up, go home, start working on finishing the Super Series car to get Sean to a track for 6 or 7 in the morning at Cayuga or something like that, and then race all day. And then the next day, you catch a couple hours in the truck when you can. It was a lot of crazy times. I was a lot younger and I could do it, but I'm kind of glad those days are done.
You tied into it perfectly. The former competitor in the Super Series and Sportsman Series, and just the magnitude of the series back in the day, and the amount of talent that you can learn from out on the track and off the track. Just talk a little bit about that.
Well, I was thinking about that today when I was thinking about what we're going to be discussing, and I realized the guys, some of the people refer to me as the veteran and the professor, and I got thinking about it. I still feel like I'm that 18-year-old kid, with the hood popping up, thinking I've got it in the wrong gear, and all these crazy things that have happened over the years. I like to think I've learned a lot, but I still feel like feel like a young guy in the sport. I know there's a few guys that have been doing it longer than me, and there's a lot of experience out there. But I like to share what I can. But I'm still definitely spending a lot of time learning. We've raced with a lot of great guys. We've had some NASCAR stars come up and race with Sean and myself at Delaware. I think I can never remember all the names. Matt Kenseth was up. I think at one point Dale Earnhardt had raced up here.
Yep.
And of course Tony Stewart. And then the regulars, you got Kenny Schrader. Yeah. And Kenny Wallace was up not too long ago with Schrader at Varney. But we've got so much great talent in Canada. And just look at the Snowball Derby down there. Lapsevich was running strong. That was terrible. I didn't know if he was going to finish in the top 10 or not, but he was putting on a good show and made us proud up here, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then you got somebody else you would have run with. Obviously, you would have run with Trayton's Uncle Jim, Uncle Nick, and his dad Jeff. And then also now you got Kyle Steckley, who comes off finishing 5th in the Snowflake. And
was it 5th? I didn't get to see it. That was great.
Yeah, 5th.
Yeah, good
looking that up and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, 5th place, just barely at the line. He was in 4th right until the very end. But
that's the way to do it.
You would have run right with Scott as well, and that's got to be cool. I mean, you guys are the people that you've raced against. May have ended their careers. They're still involved. You're still racing though. You and a bunch of guys from that CASCAR tour, and
I came in at a
good time, right?
Different era, yeah. So I was really fortunate. I got to race with everybody's old man. We've got Herniak and Herniak Jr. Steckley and all the Lapseviches, man. I got to race with Nick and Jeff and Jim. I haven't raced with Caden or
Trayton,
Trayton.
or Ryden. Yeah.
Ryden I haven't met yet.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, there's so many, and then
there's a face core to Lapseviches.
And then you take the current names that we have in OSS. And they're exactly the same. Like you got yourself, Trevelyan, Doug Cathcart, Mark Patrick. You guys have all been Tim Tolton, all been around for so many years, and yet you're still going. What is it about OSS that keeps people going? Because I mean, I don't know if this was the breaking point, but was it when when NASCAR came in? Because I'm very curious what you guys thought, because you would have been involved in the series at that time. When NASCAR came in, were you guys even aware that Sportsman what was gonna happen with it?
So I wasn't directly involved. There was a bit of a lull. So at one point I was running the Sportsman Series and helping Sean with the Super Series. And then I forget exactly how the transition happened, but I think I started running the Super Series. For those who don't know, the CASCAR Super Series is currently, it was the Pinty Series. I'm not sure
NASCAR
what
Canada
it's called now.
Series. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had switched. I think Sean took a couple years off. When he came back, he came into the Sportsman Series, and that's when he really started coming into his own, started winning a lot of races again. But I was still in the Super Series, which was, we weren't putting the effort in that we should when we ran the Super Series. We did sort of an arrive and drive kind of thing. We'd show up, we came off the trailer, we'd make a couple adjustments. We weren't doing our homework like Roger's been doing more lately. It's been a lot more focus in the last, say, 10 years, setting the car up, doing newer things, focusing a little bit more on stuff rather than just generic setup. So we were running the Super Series, and I remember there was an article at least the local Kitchener Record here. They did an interview, came out and took some pictures at the shop and talked to us about what we thought about NASCAR buying CASCAR. And it sounded like a great deal, and it was. I think it was a good thing for Canadian motorsports. It brought a lot of attention to us. We were only able to last a year or two in the series when NASCAR took ownership. I don't think they'd quite changed the name, so I think we're still racing under the CASCAR banner. But it was pretty neat. It was a lot more difficult to keep a car prepped and ready for the Super Series than it was to run the Sportsman Series. The rules were a lot tighter. I remember going through tech, and there was 2 rivets on the quarter window that weren't painted black to match the color. You didn't get through tech, right? You had to push the car back around. No running the engine, so you got the crew pushing the car pretty much halfway around the track back to tech while you paint the rivets. So it was a lot trickier to make your way through, and it still is. I mean, I've crewed for a couple teams in the Pinty Series, and tech's just as difficult as it was then, right? In fact, I wonder, it might be a little bit easier now. But we didn't have all the body templates the same as they do now. We had some simple wooden templates, but now they've got the whole mechanism, the rig that they run it through. It's quite a change, but it was good news for us when NASCAR came on. We just didn't have the sponsorship to continue doing it. It got too expensive, so we ended up back in the Sportsman Series. The Sportsman Series is fantastic. It's competitive. They're good cars. They're great drivers. We've had some highs and lows as far as competition goes, where we had some years where there's 3 or 4 guys that were running at the front. Last year here was one of our best years I can remember. There's any one of at least 10 cars could win a race. It's so much fun to race with these guys. We all like racing each other hard but clean. If you get into somebody, it's usually not on purpose, or you're just letting them know you're there, kind of thing. You might put a couple donuts on a guy, but you're not trying to wreck him. I like to drive pretty clean, but I don't mind if somebody wants to give me a bump or so here to let me know they're catching up, or to give me the reminder I got to get my foot on it and get out of the way. I want to stay ahead of them. But the competition's fantastic, and we've got such great drivers that have been around for a long time. Mike Herniak joined us for a race. I think that was just this year.
Yep.
He stepped in, and he hasn't forgotten anything. He was out there just laying it down.
He came in for he got 5 laps of practice and sat on the outside pole.
Yeah,
Hollywood, dust off the skills, eh?
Yeah, Hollywood. I forgot about that.
Well, and then
you can wheel.
And you guys, Sean has definitely had the records. He's gotten the championships and the wins. But you finally were able to cross off the championship in 2021. And I'm sure that must have been a big relief for you. I mean, after, years of being really close and just it not working out. And we finally got to celebrate that championship with you at our banquet in 2023. So we're off by a couple of years, but
a little overdue. Yeah.
A little overdue. How did that feel, Chad?
Oh, that felt great. I mean, really, things sort of turned around for me. Like I said, when we ran the NASCAR Super Series, we just kind of showed up and drove. We had a few top tens. We ran in the top 10, but we were never the car to beat, never even close. We were just a filler. I think we led a couple laps one time because everybody else pulled in under caution at Cayuga, so that was the closest I ever got. There's probably some internet record somewhere that shows that we led laps at Cayuga. But I mean, we weren't contenders. And then we got into the Sportsman Series, and we still hadn't really paid that much attention. I'm sure a lot of it was driving. It's different when you're driving a car that doesn't work. You never quite figure it out. When it really came on for us was up in Ottawa. I think it was the last race there before the track closed. And it was our first Sportsman Series win. And it was a good win. It was a lot of fun. Sean was up there racing with us. One of the best parts of the race was we were in the lead. They're on the radio saying, well, Sean's coming up on the inside. So well, I'm not giving it to him easy. So he's not going to let you have this one easy, right? So we were coming out, I think it was coming out of turn 2. And I was squeezing him down, and he was riding up into me. We rubbed tires, and suddenly he spun out to the infield. He broke a tie rod. I was like, oh, too bad. So we carried on to win that race, and that sort of set the tone for my career up until now. We've been running strong and running near the front, and it's so much more fun when you can do it, even if you're not. We've got races where we're not at the top. I mean, McAllister really handed it to us this year. He's a great competitor, a lot of fun to race with, but we got to kick his ass next year.
I mean, that needs to be a quote on our page. I really liked that. That was good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We always ask, and I always ask this with all of our OSS competitors, because Graydon and I love history, not just about the drivers, not just about the tracks, but the cars. So, got to know where your car came from, and who maybe was a previous owner of it. And we could see that for two, because you've run 2 different cars. So you could definitely, we can let you cheat a little bit, but I'd love to know kind of the history behind lineage. It. Yes, the lineage.
Well, so at one point when Sean was running, I started numbering the chassis when we got our second car, because it was too hard. We were trying to figure out which exhaust went in which car and all that. So I started numbering them. I put the number on the dash. Right? So we had number 1, number 2, number 3. Number 1 was old. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that car ended up on, somebody was doing a video rebuild of a car they were doing, and somebody called me up and said, hey, did you ever have a race car that had an SMC initials on the front welded into the frame? I said, yeah. One day my brother, being an idiot, decided he's going to weld his initials into the front clip, a 69 Camaro front clip. I said, yeah, I remember. Why do you ask? He says, because there's these guys that are building a race car from an old car, and they've stripped it down, and they're putting it back together and building this. I forget what they were making. I actually reached out to them at one point and told them where the car came from and give them a bit of history. That's where one of the cars ended up. I don't know what happened to it. I didn't follow up. I believe that was chassis number 1 or 2. Number 2 or 3, we sold to a friend of ours, Lance. He ran at Delaware with it for a number of years, and then I'm not sure it went after that. But the last 2 cars we have are 4 and 5. 4, I believe, is an old McCall car that I believe it was Dave Jacobs' Super Series car. We just recently took off the tag with the McCall 2000 certification on it. Not the year it was built, the year that NASCAR started doing the ultrasonic testing of the roll bars to make sure that they were 95 wall. So you had to have the chassis recertified. So it was an old car then, and then in 2000 it was recerted. And chassis number 5 was a road course car, and if you remember Kevin Dowler from out west, that was his car. So that's the Mustang. The Dowler car, the road course car, it's been slightly modified, but kind of a lot of hack and slash on it, but it does the trick.
I'd say so, and I love that because Kevin Dowler, Longtime, he had the Ford quality care on his 35, so that was a good car too,
and a Jacobs car too,
and a Jacobs car,
and a Ford, man.
Which is funny because they're still Fords,
yeah, there's still Fords as well. So you guys have all been like the Longtime Ford.
That's pretty cool. They've more or less stayed Fords.
Yeah, there's a running joke. My dad tells my brother he hasn't won a race since he stopped driving a Ford. When he went to the pro lates, he's been driving a Chevy, and he hasn't won a race since. There's a lot of stiff competition in that class too, but it costs a lot of money to run it.
Yeah, very much. And so obviously you guys still run the Fords, but you also brought 2 cars out last year, even 3 cars, I think, out of your stable last year. And that must have been a bit of a change for you, because it's been only one for the last couple of years. So your brother came back for a couple of races last year. And Kevin Jackman run the 9 car for a race at Sauble, and I think he did some V8 at Delaware as well. So what's it like for you guys when you have more than just one car out there?
So I focus on my car. Sean's supposed to focus on his car. Sean likes to come and help with the setup. Roger and Sean don't always see eye to eye on setup, and they both have good ideas, so it's tough because you're never really sure which way we should go.
Yeah.
Roger always seems to hammer it home. We've dropped the car off of the trailer, and the car just doesn't work. It's a dog. We're 2 seconds off the pace, and I'm thinking, oh, we're done. There's no way we're going to get this car back. We go out for some more practice and huge changes, and nothing's any better. We go out to qualify at the back, and it's like, well, it's going to be one of those races. Just stay alive and hope for the best. And Dad makes a couple changes, and we're the fastest car on the track. I don't know how he does it, but he pulls through. I think there's only been one race that I can remember in recent memory where we didn't have a decent car. Things go away, this and that, but he always makes it work for the initial green. So
that's awesome.
Now, not every time. Sometimes it's working beforehand. We get a good qualifying in, and then we're really happy. But racing with Sean is it's difficult to have 2 cars there. Roger has to spread himself pretty thin. The crew gets spread thin. And usually when you got 2 cars there, one of them breaks, and you're focusing on it, and it's tough. As much as I love running with them, if I had my choice, I would probably say it's better to do 1 car at a time. But then I'd never get a chance to race with them, and that's always a blast.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got rained out that first one at Delaware. We had 3 cars for that. And then can't remember which one we ended up at with the 3 cars again. Was that Sauble?
The Sauble. Yeah.
Yeah.
But coincidentally, Sean broke in that race. So you were correct. So that is
spot on analysis there, driver.
Well, there's a lot of good, and like we said in our series right now, and I said to Graydon, and we've done this, we talked about this before, about the competition kind of really reminds me of the early 2000 or the middle 2000s truck series, where it was like majority of veterans, and then you have a couple of young guys spread in there, and it's like the veterans are showing the way, like the Mike Skinners, the Ron Hornadays, Johnny Bensons of the world, showing the young kids how to race. And we've had a lot of competitors that have come in and out of the OSS over the years. So I'd love to know kind of your analysis on, or maybe just some of the racers that we've got that you think definitely are something that we should keep our eyes on.
Oh, you got to keep your eyes on these young guys, man. Oh man. This Ollie Strong came out of nowhere. That 55 car, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with next year. Fantastic kid, great family. They're so much fun to race with. We love pitting beside them. They don't have a lot of crew, so if you know anybody that's able to help them out, we like to help them at the track, but there's only so much we can do. They've got some good support. The people that do help them out are fantastic. I know the Flying Farmer, Kevin's been helping them out in the past. What a great guy to reach out and help a young guy start out. But yeah, he's been a great competitor. I know early on we were coaching him along, saying, just stay low, stay out of trouble, keep your nose clean. And we weren't too far into the season when we started saying, you know what, Ollie, never mind letting the guys, you race them because you got it. It's working. You're fast. You deserve to be up there, So you don't have to be nice to guys out there. Keep your nose clean, but race hard. And he did, and he really put on a great show. And then Brendan Patrick, it's in his blood. We've raced with, like you said, Mark and Jim for years, and he's got it figured out. I think his brother's racing at Delaware as well. We only had, I think, one race where his brother joined us, but and he didn't have quite the car that Brendan did.
No.
But man, he's running up at the front doing a great job. It's so much fun to race with these young guys. And even McAllister, he hasn't been racing that long from what I understand.
Yes, that's right.
I didn't realize that at first. He's doing a fantastic job for a new driver. Like, oh, I don't want to brag him up too much. It'll go to his head.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Point. Like, I think the inexperienced drivers would say the same about running with the veterans like you guys. It's a privilege, I think, probably for the young guys to cut their teeth with the seasoned veterans to learn the racecraft, to learn how to race somebody clean and stay off them. And the OSS series, as you said, is, I mean, you have your share of trading paint, but I mean, it's more or less clean racing, but it's fierce racing, and that'll make a driver out of you. And like you said, Ollie can hold his own pretty well, and it's just kind of I think it looks to be a pretty good learning environment given everybody that's in the garage area. Yeah,
I think so, and it's a competitive learning environment. It's not like a beginner series. There's a lot of hard racing goes on, and a lot of good drivers. And speaking of the young guys, it's funny. I think about Herniak Jr.
Yeah,
he's the kid. He's the new guy. He's the veteran now. It's crazy how fast that happens. Like, time has passed in racing so fast. I guess when you love doing something, the time passes quick. But it seems like just yesterday he was the new kid learning the ropes. Now he's
2018 rookie.
2018 rookie of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, where did that go? You're right. Like, that was a while ago now.
Yeah.
Well, we have so many important things. We could go for hours and hours, Chad. Really, there's so much more to talk about. But obviously, with it being my home track and Graydon's home track, I have to ask if it's still the place that you struggle at. But Sunset Speedway, I think you redeemed yourself last year. I think was it 2 podiums last year? I think it was. Maybe just 1 podium, but you definitely had a 3rd place finish, I know for sure. Did that fix it, or do you need to get back to the winner's circle at Sunset to say that you've got a handle on it?
We got to put that thing in the winner's circle. The team wants it. I want it. We've struggled so much there. We had a motor, the crank started walking on us there one of our first times. Another time, one of the only races my father ever missed, I think he had some surgery or something. He couldn't make it to the track. And I couldn't figure it out without him. I'm worried because, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do without him.
Mm-hmm.
We can't seem to make it stick there. So we've got some ideas. We're going to try some new things. But we definitely got to get a podium at Sunset. I remember that the best race we ever had there was the worst race we ever had there. I'll try and explain that. We got tangled a bit. I can't remember exactly. We got... I think we'd just taken 3rd place and 1st and 2nd spun out. We were looking for a hole, and 4th place came around the outside and clipped the front end, bumped us into the car that was spun out in front of us, and the toe was out. So the toe was out 3 or 4 inches, like absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And the car was darting from one side to the next. I couldn't figure out which wheel to follow. It was like, that's a mess. So we pull into the pits and we try and fix it. And it's bent so bad that the guys, they worked their butts off, but we just didn't have, you needed torches. You had to heat stuff up and bend it. So just drop the car, let me go out. So we went out, we're 11 laps down. And I thought, we're finishing this race no matter what. So took a couple of laps and figured out that if I turned the wheel just at the right time, I could get it to roll onto the right front tire and get through the corner. And then coming off of the corner, if I jerked it the other way, I could get it to run off of the left front tire and stay straight without darting all over the place. And somehow it turned into a rhythm. And we were fast. We were, at the time, I think, the fastest car on the track. We started passing cars just because, we were trying to stay out of the way, didn't want to get, messed up. But the car was completely bent, and it was ridiculously fast. The only problem was when I came in, they said to me, be careful, the car won't turn right. Because we were trying to, I'm turning the wheel. I said, turn the wheel to the right when we were jacking it up, trying to straighten it. So I'm turning. And I said, that's as far as it goes. So Jason, my chief mechanic, leans in the window. He says, don't forget, it won't turn right. Like, I'm not turning right. Don't worry about it. Somebody laid some oil down on the track. We were coming out of turn 4, and I was passing a couple of the guys that were at the back, and I'm giving lots of room because I don't want to ruin anybody's race. I'm right down in the bottom. Well, I hit this oil. The car gets loose. It's sideways sliding. No big deal. McGlynn's are used to driving loose cars, right? So it's sliding coming out of 4. I go to turn to the right and the steering's locked. It's like, oh no, straight into the inside wall. I hit it so hard, I thought everything broke. Pulled off, stepped on the gas again, let off, stepped on the gas. That's still going. We just kept racing. The car was still fast. I don't even remember what we broke or bent on that side. I think we forgot to use the left front wheel after that. The car was, it felt so good because the car was working. We were going around the track. We were fast. We were going as faster than the leaders, 11 laps down. I don't think we lost another lap after that, though. It was working so good. So maybe we got sunset figured out. Maybe we got to go with 4 inches of toe out. Maybe we got to hit a wall or something to get it worked out.
Yeah.
I always laugh because whenever my brother got wrecked, and the car wasn't bad enough to take off the track, he always drove faster. It'd be bent. We'd bring it in and measure the toe or the rear end to be bent or something, and it was the fastest laps he'd make. So maybe there's something to it.
I guess so. I guess you're that angry, but man, the stories today, man, this is
carry that car on your back.
Yeah. I gotta say, I expected that there would be some good stuff, but we've got probably this has been a lot of fun, Chad, and we obviously want to give you an opportunity to thank all the people that get you to the racetrack each and every week, all of your partners and the people that make it happen, because without them, you wouldn't be able to compete. And we definitely want to give you the opportunity to shout them out.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's really important with all these series. Everybody's counting on their sponsors and their teams. My family's the ones that really hold this together. And by family, I mean the crew as well. We've got some guys that have been around for a long time. Jason Masters on the crew, Jeff Miller, Kevin Jackman that have been driving the 9 car there. My brother, my dad, so Roger and Sean, and my whole family. My kids have been helping out. It's fantastic to have such a family sport. So my wife, Christina, my daughters, Shelby, Capri, and my little guy, CJ, who's convinced he's going to be driving my car soon. I gotta put that to bed pretty quick. I can't afford that. We've got Mark Performance out of Kitchener. He takes care of all our parts for the race car. And then we've got Kilton Inc., which is associated with Ontario Sportsman Series. So Rick Wall's on the crew. He's also my spotter. The guy's a fantastic spotter, a good friend. He's also family too, so brother-in-law. I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody, but we've got Shelby Signs and Graphics. So we make our own decals for the cars. We do the decals for the series. We're involved there. Blast Floor Coating, so Sean's business. I think he just did McAllister's garage. It looks fantastic. His new shop.
Awesome, yeah.
So yeah, we don't have as many sponsors as we'd like on the car. I can't seem to find the time. My job keeps me really busy, and I don't have time to go out hunting for sponsorships. So that's something I got to start to pay more attention to. My old man's been footing a lot of the bill. The winnings help, but it's not quite enough. We aren't a big enough series where you can win enough money to run the full season. But again, it's a pretty affordable series for those guys out there that know where there's a car or they got one sitting. Bring it out, man. It's so much fun. We've had good car counts, but it certainly can't hurt to have a few more. Bring your talent, bring your tires. Let's go racing.
That's well said. And that's something that we're trying to tout, that the OSS is it's a happening series to be a part of for all the reasons that we've talked about in this episode. And you can check out that beautifully and regularly updated Ontario Sportsman Series.ca for all kinds of info and stats too.
Yes, definitely. And make sure you guys come out, support OSS, and definitely support the McGlynn Motorsports team. We could definitely use some more Fords out on the racetrack. They need some help. They got a lot of Chevys and Dodges they got to go up against. So we got to get more blue ovals out there. But Chad McGlynn, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and chatting with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Cam. Graydon, I appreciate it. Pleasure talking with you. Hope to see you again at the track soon.
You bet.
Absolutely.